The worker is cleaning out this pool, and just watching it is oddly satisfying. Did you know you can deep clean a pool without changing the water? First, scoop out all the floating debris on the surface. Then, turn on the filtration system and add a special powder designed to kill algae. Let it settle for 2 days, then use a brush to scrub down the walls and the bottom of the pool. But trust me, it's not as easy as it looks. While scrubbing, you still have to keep skimming new debris and sprinkle algae killer evenly across the pool every now and then. After that, let everything sit for a few more days until the floating stuff sinks to the bottom. Then comes the best part. Use a pool vacuum to slowly suck up all that settled gunk from the floor. So satisfying to watch. Once that's done, scoop out the leftover bits with a net, and finally, depending on the condition, add some chlorine disinfectant solution. And that's it, your full pool cleaning routine is complete. If your home pool needs to be cleaned too, just leave it to the blogger. The intention is conveyed. Did you know? The foam pits in amusement parks actually need to be cleaned regularly. Cleaning workers start by picking out the whole foam blocks. Then they give the bottom a thorough wash. Finally, they refill the pit, putting back the usable old foam and adding some new foam on top. Over time, the foam breaks down into small pieces and settles at the bottom. At first glance, this process looks pretty easy and even relaxing. But that's just because the video is sped up. In reality, they often have to use brushes to clean each foam block one by one. It's not only hard work, it takes a lot of patience. Plus, during cleaning, they collect all the lost items from the pit. And some of the stuff is really surprising, like phones, watches, earrings, necklaces, and even glasses lenses, screws, and bullets. You never know what you'll find in a foam pit. So this seemingly gentle job is actually far from simple. If you were digging through a foam pit, what do you think you'd find? Have you ever noticed what chefs do when a griddle gets greasy after cooking meat? They usually throw some ice cubes onto the hot surface and scrape back and forth with a spatula. As the ice melts into water, it helps wash away the grease and grime. Many fast food burger places put a lot of cheese on their patties, which causes the griddle to turn black from burnt grease. This burn on grease is very stubborn. Regular dish soap and scraping alone won't clean it. Smart chefs use ice cubes to take advantage of thermal expansion and contraction. When the ice hits the hot griddle, the contact area cools rapidly and contracts differently than the rest of the metal. This weakens the grease's grip on the surface. As the ice melts and boils, the steam and bubbles help lift the grime, which then flows down the drain. Next, they scrape off the loosened residue, pour on plenty of white vinegar, boil it to remove odors, and finally wipe the griddle clean with a towel. Then it's time to turn off the heat and call it a day. If you found this interesting, share your own kitchen hacks in the comments. When a ship sails through freezing waters, you might open a door and find a thick layer of ice on the outside. Clearing that ice becomes a daily extra job for the crew. So why do so many sailors hate ice chipping? Well, it's not just the doors. Steel cables on the deck can get completely frozen over, sometimes looking like giant walls of ice. Sure, the ice looks beautiful, crystal clear and shiny. But if you leave it alone for too long, it can start messing with important parts of the ship. That's why sailors have to use special tools to chip away at the ice, bit by bit. And honestly, the process is kind of satisfying to watch. For example, if a mechanical part has been frozen for 2.5 days, it needs to be cleared right away. Otherwise, it might freeze up completely and stop working. Sailing in cold regions is a real challenge for everyone on board. Even if they clear all the ice one day, by the next morning, the cables and railings are usually covered again. To keep the deck clean and equipment running smoothly, they have to go through the whole ice chipping routine every single day. At first, many sailors find it oddly enjoyable. But over time, doing the same thing day after day can really wear you down. Whoever invented this technology is absolutely a genius. This amazing invention is called the Seabin, designed by 2 Australians to tackle the problem of ocean pollution. At first glance, it might look pretty ordinary, about the size of a regular bucket. But don't be fooled, it has incredible capabilities. It can filter over 25,000 liters of water per hour, and when placed in the ocean, it automatically collects floating trash. So, how does it work? There's a drainage hole at the top of the C-bin. When water is pumped out, it creates suction, drawing in surrounding marine debris along with the water, which is then collected inside a fiber bag within the bin. Once the bag is nearly full, it can be easily removed and emptied. The C-bin collects not only floating fragments from large plastic bottles to microfibers as small as 2 millimeters, but even oil slicks left behind bypassing ships. A single C-bin can clean up about 6 pounds, around 2.7 kilograms, of waste per day. Now, imagine if thousands of these devices were operating along coastlines at the same time. Wouldn't our environment become a lot cleaner? Hey, friends in America, your voice matters. Do you think the C-bin could really make a difference along our shores? This is Thailand. Local farmers are cutting rice, but the rice isn't fully ripe yet. Why are they cutting it early? It's actually part of a unique method for growing the jasmine rice. When the rice reaches a certain height, they perform a process called topping. First, it removes the flower heads of weeds. This helps reduce weed seeds and stops them from stealing nutrients from the rice. Second, typhoons are common in Southeast Asia. Trimming the tender tips of rice helps the stems and roots absorb more nutrients and sunlight. The plants grow stronger and are less likely to fall over in heavy wind or rain. Finally, topping helps remove early, low-quality rice. This ensures better consistency in the final harvest and improves the quality of the whole batch. This method can boost jasmine rice yield by about 12% per acre. The cutting is usually done by hand. Workers carry small cutting machines, pushing row by row, one pass at a time. The rice field becomes smooth and level. It's actually really satisfying to watch. What do you think? Tell me in the comments. This is how corn is harvested. The harvester chops the corn stalks into pieces on the spot. But if you look closely, you'll notice they're not actually picking the corn off the stalks. In fact, the machine grinds up the entire corn plant, including the ears, and loads everything straight into the truck. We all know that corn stalks have low nutritional and economic value, so most farms shred them for use as fertilizer. And in some places, they're even burned. But corn itself is not only a staple food, it's also a crucial ingredient in animal feed. So why grind up the whole cob along with the stalks? Well, some large-scale ranches produce a type of green livestock feed called silage. This kind of feed requires chopping up fresh corn cobs, stalks, and other plants all together and sending it to a feed processing plant. Once it's tightly packed and sealed, the lack of oxygen inside, combined with the high moisture content of the fresh plants, especially corn, which is also rich in sugar, creates the perfect conditions for lactic acid bacteria to ferment the mix. As a result, the feed lasts much longer and ends up being even more nutritious. Why do workers cut down the whole banana tree when harvesting bananas? That's because banana trees aren't real trees like we think. They don't have hard trunks. They're made of tightly wrapped layers of leaves. Each banana plant only fruits once. After that, its life cycle ends. The trunk begins to wither. It can't grow new bananas anymore. And if it's left standing, it keeps draining nutrients from the underground root. It can even attract pests and diseases. During the harvest, workers carefully support the bunch of bananas, chop down the trunk, and then transport the fruit. But cutting the old plant doesn't mean the end. The real power of the banana lies underground, in the swollen bulb-like base. This hidden factory keeps sending up fresh shoots. In 6 to 7 months, a new banana plant will grow and start producing fruit again. This cut-old-grow-new method follows the banana's natural life cycle and keeps plantations producing year-round. So next time you see a worker cutting down a banana tree, remember, it's not destruction. It's the beginning of new life.